There's nowhere quite like Old Blighty, and nowhere quite like the University of Oxford. Ranked among the world's best, it's turned out countless generations of philosophers, historians, imperialists and colonists. Yes, and don't we know it. In bringing a bit of mongrel to proceedings, Willie Jackson, the first Māori ever to be invited to debate in these hallowed halls. His topic? British museums are in fact very British. Definitely one for Labour's feistiest MP. That's my dad for you.
What are some zingers you're going to...
Well, you'll have to wait, won't you?
Come on, tell us.
There's some obvious lines. No, I can't do that.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't do that. You know, everybody in New Zealand has given me this line about...
What's the line?
The line was based on what Longy said in terms of I can smell the uranium coming off your breath.
Would like an answer, sir.
And I'm going to give it to you if you hold your breath, just for a moment. I could smell the uranium on it as you lean towards it.
This was the quip that cemented then Prime Minister David Longy's place in Oxford debating history.
And of course the line that everyone's going, you must say, you know, I can smell the colonialism coming off your breath. You know?
Yeah.
And so every man...
Are you going to use it, you think?
Every man and his dog, of course, has said you've got to do that.
Is the goal for you to have a line that everyone remembers?
I think the goal for me is, obviously I want to have a bit of fun, you know, and then obviously I don't want to embarrass myself. But I do want to make it clear to people how important it is that we have some of our artefacts, particularly moko mokai, back on our lands.
Which is why Willie Jackson is popping into the iconic British Museum in London, because in its vast collection are moko mokai. It's also the chance to school up for what's going to be a serious test of wits in the Oxford debate.
It'd be strange if you weren't nervous. You know, you got some big hitters on in this debate. So, you know, and of course, as I said, you know, you got the haters out there thinking, well, what are you doing there, Willie Jackson?
Willie Jackson, boy from the south side, ex-bouncer, freezing worker, union rabble-rouser, and with no university degree to his name.
They just want you to fall over and die, so, you know.
He's meeting Julie, the curator of the Oceania collection. She was a student in Tamaki Makaurau, fell in love with our culture, and is now part of the British Museum.
And how many items do we have from Aotearoa that are Māori specific?
Yeah, so Māori taonga, about 3,000 altogether in the collection, and some of those date back right to the beginnings of those very first encounters between Captain Cook and Māori people.
Wow.
But others actually are from right up till the present day, so we still actively collect and work with contemporary Māori artists today. So the collection is a living collection, constantly growing and changing.
So your average person that lives in Britain, they went to school or high school, university, do they learn much about the relationship between New Zealand and Britain, I guess?
Certainly when I was at school, simple answer, no. But I think that is changing, and school curriculums are more open now, thinking about history more critically, about Britain's role in colonisation and empire.
The British Museum's huge haul of artefacts include plunder from all over the world, and a bunch of countries want it back.
God save the king!
Including us and our moko mokai.
When you hear Māori wanting moko mokai back home, how do you feel?
I absolutely agree that moko mokai should be back home in Aotearoa. That's my personal position. The museum was approached a number of years ago now, back in 2008, 2009, by the repatriation team at Te Papa, and on that occasion some ancestral remains were returned and others were not. What I can say about that is that the museum is working closely with the Te Papa team, and we look forward to a request being made again.
And close by, precious artefacts from Captain James Cook's expeditions to Aotearoa. Surely Mother England is across all of that.
So in terms of Captain Cook, hugely well known in New Zealand. But what about amongst the British? Is he known in terms of modern Britain?
I would say not.
No.
Certainly not in the way that he is in Aotearoa. A few years ago, we were planning an exhibition about Cook here at the British Museum, and we did a survey amongst audiences of how many people recognise the name Captain Cook. And most people thought we were actually talking about Captain Kirk from Star Trek. They didn't actually know who Cook was. So I think that's an interesting gap in our own understanding.
Back home we had the celebrations. You remember that? But of course a lot of our people didn't think there was anything to celebrate because he's seen as the prime coloniser. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think a lot gets rested on the shoulders of those initial encounters, really. You know, Cook has become, I guess, a figurehead for everything that came afterwards in terms of colonisation. But I totally understand that for Māori people, that's a difficult narrative.
80 kilometres away, among the rarefied spires of Oxford, the past and the present collide. Yes, they're protesting here too. The place just reeks of history. It's old, really old. The university was established in the year 1096. That's before the Aztecs built their pyramids. It's all a pretty far cry from my uni days in Tamaki Makaurau.
Rugby field. Oh, man. Tucked away down the end of this cobble street is one of the most prestigious and famous debating societies in the world, the Oxford Union. Let's go have a look, eh?
Some of the most famous minds have studied here. That's former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That's Albert Einstein. Stephen Hawking studied here. The Dalai Lama debated here. And there's our very own David Longy.
David.
The roll call of the great and good invited to debate at the Oxford Union is pretty intimidating.
You can't just stay where you are. You have to be prepared for the next thing that's coming.
The future is yours. The decisions you make about it will affect us for centuries to come.
How old is this chamber?
This chamber is just under 200 years old.
Yeah.
It's the largest purpose-built debating chamber.
Theo is the Chief of Staff for the Union. He's 20 years old and has already participated in 2 debates.
Now, when there's a live crowd, there's different ways of winning debates. There's actual, laying some cold hard facts on the ground, or there's, winning the crowd over with, a bit of swagger and entertainment. Or, can you win the crowd over like that, or...?
Yes, I think a lot of what wins debates is performance.
Yeah.
It's how you act, it's how you interact with the crowd, it's how you respond. I've seen some of the most knowledgeable people with some of the most facts crash and burn in the chamber because they may have had a whole lifetime working in it, but they've never had to sell their idea to someone. And so debating the Oxford Union is a unique skill that involves showmanship and trying to win people over through yourself. You're representing an idea, but only you are there to represent it.
A frisson of excitement is building, and they're arriving early at the famous debating chamber. It's a big responsibility for the officers of the Union.
Louis, what's it like being the president here, watching all this unfold?
It's a tremendous privilege to lead this organisation. I've been involved now for 2 years, and to sort of be the president, it's a tremendous privilege, and you really feel like you're standing in the presence of history. And so for me, it's a real honour.
Obviously, we're here to support the third New Zealander ever to stand here. How did you guys select them? How did you find them?
So we pick our motion, and then we look for speakers that we think would be really good. We heard of Willie's activism in New Zealand on Māori issues and things, and we thought he'd be a perfect speaker for this debate.
Well, he's certainly dressed to kill. Up next, showtime for Willie Jackson.
I now look to the Honourable Willie Jackson MP to close the case for the opposition.
Coming up, the fire, the fury of the debating chamber. How the case was won. That's next.
The seats are starting to fill. The debate is about to begin. A British museum's very British. To win, you have to win over the crowd. and they literally vote with their feet by walking out left or right. Willie's side is the nose. From on high, the Oxford Union president calls the shots.
If you wish to vote in proposition, please walk through the eyes. If you wish to vote in opposition, please walk through the nose.
Willie's opponents are a bevy of top current and former students.
I ask our honourable members, what is something that feels British but just isn't? If I have convinced you today that the answer to this question is the British Museum, I urge you to vote in favour of the motion. Thank you.
And they've got on their side a former Conservative politician who also happens to be a Lord.
We're a country that believes in the rule of law, and we're a country that is turning our back on colonialism.
They hammer home that British museums aren't very British because they are stuffed with stuff from everywhere else in the world.
If you go to the British Museum, you'll find the self-proclaimed largest, most comprehensive selection of Egyptian antiquities outside of Egypt. The only reason you won't find the pyramids is because they were too heavy to carry them back.
For Willie's team, the Nose, it's a tense contest.
Why am I speaking on this side? Why am I defending the indefensible? Why have I discarded my morals?
When you say the British museums are not British, you are not British. In fact, you get it wrong. They are essentially British for what they do, namely, to collect the art of the world.
Anyone in the crowd is free to interject, and they do.
Well, I'll take it. Go ahead.
And they will never get to see their own culture, or their own travelers, or their own art, or their own heroes, because it's somewhere in London. How is that fair? How is the University Museum doing anything except for the most privileged members of that crowd?
Louis, I should have said no.
And I now look to the Honourable Willie Jackson MP to close the case for the opposition.
And now it's showtime. Willie is the last speaker for the night. Winning the debate is now up to him.
E tika ana kia maumahara te wahine toa rangatira Mākereti Papakura.
It might be the first time te reo Māori is heard in these halls, acknowledging Mākereti Papakura, the first Māori to enrol at Oxford.
And she opened the door for our people, and tonight I dedicate my speech to her legacy, the great Mākereti Papakura. By the end of my speech, you too will support me and agree with me that British museums are without doubt, any doubt, very British.
Willie seizes on his opponents and flips their argument in his favour. And it's a winning formula.
No, not quite now. We've waited 200 years for this opportunity. But thank you very much.
So far, so good.
British museums are very, very British because it's very, very, very British to take from Indigenous people and never hand it back.
And the hits keep coming.
Who else has the audacity to arrive on distant shores, hop off their boats and declare they own everything? The British, that's who.
And coming.
The entire cultural history of the British is stealing good ideas and culture from everyone they encountered.
And coming.
The British Empire is a national disgrace.
And then the one we've all been waiting for.
To paraphrase our great former Prime Minister, David Long, his famous quip, during the nuclear weapons Oxford debate 39 years ago, I can smell the colonialism on your breath from here.
Watching my dad on such a historic occasion, it's easy to get caught up in the game of wits, but he came here with a serious job to do.
The British Museum still holds 7 moko mokai. Many of our people believe these mokai cry out to us. I was there the other day. They talk to us. They want to go home. I implore you on behalf of my people to honour the partnership agreement between Māori and the British Crown. That is the Treaty of Waitangi. So as you pass through those doors tonight to vote, I implore you to acknowledge who you are as Britons, but even more importantly, who you want to be as Britons. vote against this motion and accept British museums are very British, and we hope your British tradition of justice brings my ancestors home. Thank you, everybody. Kia ora tātou.
I thank Mr. Jackson for his speech, and now we have reached the end of the debate. As Mr. Jackson said, you will now have the opportunity to vote with your feet. If you wish to vote in proposition, please walk through the ayes. If you wish to vote in opposition, please walk through the noes. And I remain Louis Wilson, Christchurch, and your president. Thank you.
Oh, Willie Jackson, what a guy. I thought the crowd reception to the MP from New Zealand was really heart-touching.
I thought it was very rousing. I thought the way he was able to kind of utilise the motion to talk about a point that he was very passionate about was amazing.
Votes counted, and now the result.
155. The noes have it. The noes have it. Thank you. Yeah!
Yeah, it was just a magnificent response. You know, I was really humbled by the response. You know, young Kiwis, just about all Pākehā, coming over here. There was 10 or 15 of them here, coming over to give me a hug afterwards. Young, one or two of them crying. It was very humbling and lovely to see. I just hope that people were proud. You know, you get the haters, right? You know, they're in my head. They're in my head sometimes, you know. Those sort of haters are what drives me, because that's why I do what I do in politics and what I do in terms of advocating for our people, and we should never, ever bow down to them.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, my son.
Very proud of you, eh?